Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdul Malik Daud, and here's my friend.
My name is Steve.
And we are going to explain our presentation about Greece and the challenges related to the Mediterranean Sea, starting from the Greece geography. The Greece geography of Greece. Greece, where's the slide? Greece, the southernmost of the countries of the Balkan Peninsula. The Greece geography has greatly influenced the country's development. Mountains historically restricted internal communication, but the sea opened up wider horizons. Next, Greece has more than 2,000 islands, of which about 170 are inhabited. Some of the easternmost Aegean islands lie just a few miles off Turkish coast. The country's capital is Athens, which expanded rapidly in the second half of the 20th century. Next. Greece is an intrinsic part of the Mediterranean, and ancient times has maintained strong and unbroken bonds with peoples and countries of the region. As a European coastal country in the Mediterranean, Greece, which sees the Mediterranean as a sea of communication, trade, and cooperation, plays an active, substantial, and leading role in the wider region, pursuing the promotion of actions, programs, and synergies in all actors. And lastly, Greece is linked to the wider Black Sea region by unbreakable age-old historical ties. It is no coincidence that the Black Sea and neighboring regions are home to ancient cities. Okay, next slide, please.
So, as the center of the middle and the middle Mediterranean Sea, Greece has several advantages and disadvantages. And for that, there is a challenge for Greece geography itself. One of them is their shallow sea. So, Greece was surrounded by the mountains country that's located in the east of Mediterranean Sea, which is makes the the capabilities of Greece to having their maritime military, such as submarines, are limited, even for the huge warship, which is this could be very disadvantage for the geography that influence the Greece maritime diplomacy. So the challenge of Greece geography has many kind of examples. One is the Greece have to face their geography as the geography disadvantage as the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, which is one of them is they have to face plastic trash in Greece Sea territory becoming the issue since 2018. Most of the beaches are clean in Greece, but the big problem is the seabed. It's full of the garbage dump, even though the rubbish are not come from Greece. So actually, the rubbish itself come from the non-countries that uh, bring with the sea wave to the center of the Mediterranean Sea, which is Greece, get to the impact of the rubbish, which is they have to spend lot money to clean this rubbish. And also, there is no countries that want to responsible with their own trash, which is become the disadvantage for Greece and makes Greece itself have to deal more about the disadvantage of being in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea.
Greece is a mountainous country located in southeastern Europe. It borders Albania, Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Turkey. The Rhodope and Pindus Mountains form natural barriers with its northern neighbors. The Aegean, Mediterranean, and Ionian Seas surround Greece, giving it one of the world's longest coastlines. The country has more than 2,000 islands, and Greek life has traditionally revolved around the sea. In antiquity, Greek city-states like Athens and Sparta expanded their influence throughout the Mediterranean, with settlements in Italy, Turkey, North Africa, and around the Black Sea. Today, the Greek merchant fleet is the second largest contributor to its economy, behind tourism. Athens is Greece's capital and most populous city. Athens and the Aegean Sea that surrounds it is the country's core. Controlling the Aegean facilitates trade, defense, and communication. Protecting this core from invasion is Greece's main geographic challenge. Because of its strategic location in the heart of the Mediterranean, Macedonian, Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman empires ruled Greece for more than 2,000 years. After a long war, Greece achieved independence from the Ottoman Empire in 1830. The country's rugged geography makes administration from a central government difficult. A scarcity of arable land combined with poor overland transportation also complicate capital formation, making Greece one of the least developed countries in the Eurozone. Greece joined the Eurozone in 2001 and is currently at the center of the European economic crisis. Overcoming the effects of the crisis will be a key feature of Greece's economic, social, and political life in coming years.
From bad to worse, particularly for Afghanistan's peoples that growing numbers of them is trying to reach the Greek island in the Aegean Sea, because many of these islands are more kilometers away from the Turkish coast. So why are so many Afghans coming? So there's also many reasons why the Afghans coming to become immigrants to the Greece, because U.S. sanctions against Iran have plunged the economy there into crisis. That's why many Afghans who work in construction and other areas have to leave there to find another work in Turkey. But the Turkish government has upped the pressure on the refugees without valid papers. The economic crisis in Turkey has negatively changed the population attitude towards the refugee. And what is the European Union doing for the refugees in Turkey? So under the European Union and Turkey refugee deal, the European Union promised to give 6 billion euro to Turkey to provide for the Syrian refugee there. 2.4 billion have been paid so far by the European Union says. Erdogan regularly says this is not nearly enough because the European has also agreed to take 7,200 refugees from Turkey, the UN says, which is because of the refugees are always moved from the territory of Turkey to the Greece. It also makes the immigrants population in the Greece becomes many and becomes another issue. So why do so many refugees want to leave Turkey? Is first, in Turkey, non-Syrian refugees don't have a permanent resident status. Many of non-Syrian single men are registered as refugees. This makes the situation for 170,000 Afghans and more 142 Iraqis in Turkey precarious. The Turkish government says it has arrested more than 300 refugees with papers and deported tens of thousands of Afghanistan since January, which is many refugees now try to leave the countries. So the problems coming to now when the immigrants come from Turkey to the Greece, but because of the current issue that's affecting the mass issue to the world, which is coronavirus. In 18 March 2020, Greece closed their border to all non-EU citizens, especially and Turkey. The European Union itself fortifies Greek border against refugee influx, which is, in the same days, Turkey closed their border gates with Greece and Bulgaria, which is Turkey blocks the refugees from entering their country, this is become the issue for the refugees itself. So they cannot go home to their home, their the place they come from, or even go to the place they want to immigrate with. So next is
The Greece foreign policy towards the Mediterranean Sea. Greece supported the Union for the Mediterranean or UFM. Greece is an administrative part of Mediterranean Sea, and since ancient times has maintained strong and unbroken bonds with the peoples and countries of the region. As a European coastal country in the Mediterranean, Greece, which sees the Mediterranean as a sea of communication, trade, and cooperation, plays an active, substantial, and leading role in the wider region, pursuing the promotion of actions. Greece steered into crisis with Turkey as eh, Greece steered into crisis with Turkey since Turkey has withdrawn its border in the Aegean, and the Greek government is failing to do much about it. In November last year, Greece was caught by surprise when Turkey announced it had signed a memorandum of understanding with the Libyan government. The deal demarcated new maritime boundaries between the two countries that now run very close to Crete, one of the Greece's biggest islands. Turkey's aims to start drilling operation for natural gas in this area, in humiliating disregard of Greece's territorial claims. The country's traditional allies in Washington and across Europe have done essentially nothing to intervene. And Greece's policy regarding the states and peoples in the Black Sea region is focused on developing ties and cooperation on all levels. Greece pursues and supports the achievement of stability in the region. And the Greece-Turkey conflict, in addition, Greece and Turkey's relation are an important parameter not only in the relation between the two countries, but also in the development and stability of the wider region of Southeast Europe in the East Mediterranean. Greece stresses not to respect the international law, particularly international law of the sea, as well as the importance of the principle of good neighborly relations, an essential European common values. Turkey's European perspective plays as a particular important role in Greece-Turkish relation. Greece is a firm and sincere supporter of Turkey's European Union accession course because of Greece belief that the European Union is a catalyst for regional stability and growth and that Turkey's accession. And lastly, Greece has excluded from the jurisdiction of the Tribunal of the Convention the delimitation of maritime zones, according to Article 298 of the Convention. Within this framework, Greece is pursuing the resolution of the only outstanding difference between Greece and Turkey, namely the delimitation of the continental shelf in accordance with regulation of international law and specifically the law of the sea. Next.
so the challenge of the Greece geography is the country's rich geography makes administration from the central government difficult. The scarcity of arable land combined with the poor overland transportation also compatible capital formation, making Greece one of the least developed countries in Eurozone. Greece joined the Eurozone in 2001 and is currently at the center of the European Union economic crisis. Overcoming the effect of the crisis will be a key feature of Greece's economic, social, political life in coming years. After teetering on bankruptcy in 2009, amid the financial crisis and ensuing recessions, and the government spending that had been rising since Athens hosted as the 2004 Olympics, Greek debt has stabilized at $402 billion, or 180% of gross domestic product, up from 109% before the crisis started, which is affecting their country to less military spending, its development, and lack of needs to build infrastructure. So why it happens? So actually, because of the economic crisis, Greece's main income come from the tourism. When in economic crisis, people doesn't have money to spend, and Greece spending is too much rather than their income, which makes Greece have very high debt numbers, and Greece cannot pay it back on time. The another reason is unemployment rate of Greece is actually high, which is when the people doesn't have the money to spend, it influences and decrease Greece income and investor interest to come and drop the GDP of the Greece. So the logically, when people that in economic crisis and doesn't have money to spend, they and Greece are depending on their own tourism as the main income for their countries. So they cannot pay for their own flight travel to come to Greece to enjoy their tourism in Greece, which is there are the videos that we provide to explain more why Greece bankruptcy is important and how it happens from the sources.
Please take a look at the video. It'll take a second.
In the world of finance, we are often quick to forget the tragedies of the past, yet valuable lessons are to be had by exploring their causes and effects. After all, in a world of ever-changing rules, products, and services, history is the one constant that can guide us through the ambiguity. So let's take a 5-minute history lesson on today's Plain Bagel. It's 1999, and the Greek government is in a bit of a pickle. The European Union has just launched a fancy new currency, the euro, that will be shared by its members. But even though Greece is part of the EU, they're left off the invite. You see, despite massive tax evasion problems, the Greek government has been spending to boost social benefits and wages, which has caused their debt to GDP to rise well above the 60% required to adopt the currency. So now they must decide between cutting back spending or missing out on the Eurozone party. Unless, of course, there's a third option. You see, Goldman Sachs, an American investment bank, comes along with an idea, a way to meet the currency adoption criteria by masking the government's debt load through currency swaps. It involves a bit of lying, but this way the country can avoid radical reforms and reap the benefits of the euro, a win-win. So Greece gives it a shot, using the sleight of hand to adopt the currency in 2001. And sure enough, the stunt pays off. The currency brings with it more trade, and since the euro allows Greece to pay back off the financial strength of its fellow Eurozone members, the government gains access to better financing, enough to even bring the Olympics home for 2004. Sure, debt to GDP continues to rise above 110%, and things are a little precarious, but hey, the economy is growing, there's plenty of EU money funding the budget deficit, and so long as things keep rolling, everything will be that's not good. Looks like a real estate crisis in the US has triggered a global recession, and it's hitting Greece like a train. GDP is falling as tourism and shipping slow down, with the Athens Stock Exchange plummeting 65% in 2008. Worse yet, borrowing costs are increasing. Oh, and that shared currency we fought so hard for? Well, it's preventing Greece from stabilizing through monetary policy. And just in case things didn't look bad enough, surprise, in 2009, it's revealed that the government has been cooking the books, and its budget deficit is not 6.7%, but double that. Whoops. I mean, more than double the original estimate. Borrowing costs skyrocket as the entire country's credibility is smashed like a plate on the floor. OPA. On April 27, 2010, with a debt to GDP of 127%, the country's credit rating is dropped to junk, plummeting Greece towards default as it begins to drown in its pile of public debt. But look, on the horizon, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a buttload of money. The Troika, a group consisting of 2 EU entities in the International Monetary Fund, has come to bail Greece out in a bid to save the EU from the ramifications of a Greek default. Here's the plan. Lend Greece 110 billion euros to avoid default, use the bailout money to pay off expensive creditors, get the government to commit to higher taxes and lower spending to bring the country back into a surplus, and wait for this recession to blow over. So, on May 2nd, 2010, the Troika tosses Greece a lifeline and... damn. The bailout doesn't quite fix the problem. In fact, the austerity measures have put further pressure on GDP and brought debt to GDP up to 172% by 2011, with creditors quickly draining the bailout funds. This is bad, and the Troika realized that more drastic measures are required, so they devise a new plan. Give Greece another 130 billion euros, negotiate with creditors to cut the country's IOU by 53.5%, get the government to commit to further austerity measures to bring the country back into a surplus, and wait for this depression to blow over. So on February 21st, 2012, the Troika prepares the largest sovereign debt restructuring in history, tosses Greece its second lifeline, and success! The program grabs a hold, and after 2 years of further tax reforms, layoffs, and wage cuts, the government reports a structural surplus. But wait, Greece is starting to fight back. You see, the Troika's bailout terms they're hoping the government get a handle on its debt are causing unrest at home, with Greeks bearing the burden of falling wages, rising taxes, and unemployment above 25%. So when a snap election occurs in 2015, the people break over 40 years of two-party rule and elect a new anti-austerity party to office in a bid for change. The new prime minister promises to boost spending and throw down the gauntlet to the Troika to renegotiate terms, raising tensions between the government and the Troika until the country's lifeline snaps and, ladies and gentlemen, all hell breaks loose. Creditors flee Greece once again, and a liquidity crisis emerges, with fear gripping the country amid concerns of Grexit, Greece's departure from the EU. Negotiations with the Troika fall through as even its members clash, and on June 30th, 2015, with the government unable to secure any further debt relief, Greece defaults, missing a 1.6 billion euro debt payment to the IMF, the first developed country to ever do so. The foundation of Greece's economy begins to crack as the government shuts down its stock exchange and banking system. Greeks continue to fight against a new bailout proposed by the EU, but at this point, with the country in financial purgatory, Grexit inching closer, and no more leverage for negotiation, on July 16th, a very desperate government throws in the towel, grabbing a hold of the EU's third lifeline and accepting an 86 billion euro bailout in August. And so, with the fight to boost spending meeting a dramatic end, the Greek people prepare once again for a round of cuts, reforms, and hard times ahead. All in, the economy would shrink 25% as a result of the crisis. And while Greece has since finished its bailout program, the country to this day maintains a debt to GDP of 181%. And Greek people continue to suffer, with 1 in 3 Greeks at risk of living in poverty. It goes to show the terrible consequences of fiscal mismanagement. And as Greece continues down its road to recovery, let us not forget the valuable and devastating case study it provided.
And so the conclusion is, Greece and Turkey ties are now remain calmed down since the effect of the coronavirus pandemic. They both closed borders and heading after a truce. Greece, however, remain achieving the bad effect of due to the refugees delivered from the Turkey since they are forced to open border by Turkey before the pandemic occurs. The effect of the Greece economic crisis, however, are still being felt by the Greek, like the difficulty to buy something in the country in the future. It is really hoped that the tension between Turkey and Greece calmed down. Moreover, since the coronavirus pandemic, the tension will only give the disadvantages towards both countries. Okay, guys, that's all from us. Is there any question? Thank you for watching our presentation. Please ask something, guys. Thank you.
Can I ask?
No, you cannot ask.